Good morning, all. Is the audio video clear, people? Yes. Is the audio video clear? कौन अरे ये तो छाड़ी नहीं. हाँ. Come on, come on. Wake up, wake up. हाँ. जल्दी जल्दी उठो. Let's begin then.
कोहली को पीरियड भी दिया उसको 15 मिनट एक्स्ट्रा.
सही है. I see the weather is awesome. सोने का मूड होगा. But सोने के चक्कर में सोना लॉस हो जाएगा. मुझे लग रहा है. Yes. If you sleep, you lose the gold. Now, Sona and the Sona. For me, education is the Sona. Okay? Chalo, bacha. Today's topic is the addiction and the abuse of drugs, alcohol, then other forms of habits like smoking. This is a part in your chapter Human Health and Disease, a component of it. Now, basically, why is this chapter present? I mean, why is this topic present? Simple reason is, in today's context, the commonly affected youth or youth mass, okay, it is in light of them. आप देखोगे, a statistical data says, in India itself, people in the age group of 12 to 25 are high addicts. High addicts. तो 12 से लेकर, that is 19, जो कि आपकी, almost we can say teenage and the transition into adulthood. That phase is a phase where जब आप you are filled with energy and the mind is into so many things. So a small wrong decision, a habit that develops, continues. This is the basic problem. So what can be the big manifestations of this problem? कौन बड़ा है परिवो? Small habits that have been made, ठीक है? सेटा आगु को जाएगी, केमती गोटे बड़ा problem है परिवो. What can be the consequences? सही जिनसर awareness spread करिया पाई. This particular topic has been put into this particular chapter. ठीक है? So let us continue. Fine. जोटी नौ बुझ परिवो, you are always free to ask me. Fine. ठीक है बच्चा. Okay, let us look into them one by one. Now, when we look into the primary forms of abuse, okay, the primary forms of abuse, so drugs are one of them. First category, say, is the drugs. Now in drugs, we classify the drugs into three categories. One is the opioids, two cannabinoids, and three coca alcohols. Now, Prathame, try and understand what is drugs. Now, basically, drugs mane kono? Drugs are substances that are obtained either from plant sources or artificially. Drugs are substances that are obtained from plants or artificial sources. Plants ଭିତରେ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ substances ଥାଏ, alkaloids ଥାଏ, ସେଇ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ ଆମେ ଆଣିକି ତାକୁ modify କରିଥାଉ ବା use କରିଥାଉ, either directly or in a processed way. Directly ଆଣିକି use କରିପାରିବ କିମ୍ବା processing କରିକି ମଧ୍ୟ use କରିହବ. That is referred to as a drug. ठीक है? କିନ୍ତୁ ତା ଦେହରେ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ very important component has to be remembered. କଣ? Drugs are substances obtained from plants or by artificial means and used in order to alleviate certain conditions. So basically drugs जोटा theory ହେଇଛି, plants माने theory कले तांको निज protection पाई from grazing animals, from those which make pathogens, insects. ठीक अछि, ए जिंसटी तांकर सेही purpose de theory ହେଇଥିଲା. It will protect them against those grazing animals by insects, by pathogens, fungi, etc. so that they will not harm them. So आमे से insect obtain कलो and ताको आने की use करिया आरंभ करो. The primary purpose why it should be used is medicinal. So drugs are जो नाटी drugs जेतल सुनु छो मानो mind रे तमरा आसुची actually something very bad, but no, drugs, the word means a good thing. Why? Because एई जिंस गुडिको medicinal purpose रे कोनोसी problem को relieve करिया ପାଇଁ use करा जायता है. तो फिर ये खराब कैसे हो गया? Basically any substance or anything that is consumed in a large quantity in an uncontrolled manner, and even if there is no problem, just for enjoyment or for happiness, ecstasy, etc. ବୁଝିପାରୁଛ? ଅଧିକ ମାତ୍ରାରେ use ହବ, ବିନା କାରଣରେ use ହବ, and for purposes that are unnecessary. And धीरे धीरे what happens is you become completely dependent upon it. Means no consume kale तमको लागिवो जेमती life is going in a very bad way. That is what is a drug. So drug basically means medication. बुझिबो? जतल तमे chemist और जो हमरो तमरो pharmacy को जिबो सेठी लिखा हेतिबो drugs. The drugs does not mean selling of heroin, cocaine or brown sugar. Drugs माने medicines. बुझिबो धरा. तो सेही medicines गुडी को जोटा सेठी सेल होची तांकर भी addiction develop ही जाय पारे. For example, you will find there are many people जो माने की टिके की छेला माने cetirizine खाइबे, न खाइले निद्रा हुएनी. Yes, there are people. आजकल students माननको भितर एउटा common जिंस अछि अमृतांजन. They are all forms of addiction. अमृतांजन न लगेले से मानु भलो लागेनी, concentration हुएनी. रात्रि there are people अमृतांजन न लगेले निद्रा हुएनी. Understood? So basically drugs is a good term. Drugs माने हैला medicine. कोनोसी problem बा health condition को alleviate करिया पाए बा treat करिया पाए दिया है था. जदि तार over use ही जाए, long term use ही जाए, ताहले body भीतर तार dependency develop ही जाए. That is called addiction. And सतवेले बिना advice रे, बिना purpose रे, just to satisfy the need, medication टी निया जाता है. Then it becomes a bad thing. Okay? कहीं बॉडी ऊपर तार इफेक्ट्स पड़वा आरंभ होगा साइड इफेक्ट जाक मैं कहूँ अंडरस्टूड सो जो सब्सटेंसेस गुडी को कॉमनली एडिक्शन करी थांती those substances which commonly cause an addiction आमे ताको एई कोन कैटेगरी रे रखिचे एंड प्राइमरीली जो माने सबुटो अधिक हार्म मध्य करथांती से माने को एथरे रखा है ओके गॉट द पॉइंट सो बेसिकली ड्रग्स आर in this context those particular alkaloids which are obtained from plants etc and are used to provide relief from depression anxiety to give you a sense of ecstasy euphoria happiness ei sab jinsa ko ame drugs karuche ठीक अछि so opioids cannabinoids coca alkaloids all these are referring to drugs ठीक अछि okay चलो तो प्रथम कैटेगरी द फर्स्ट कैटेगरी जिसमें हम लोग आते हैं दैट इज बेसिकली द ओपियोइड्स ठीक है ओके फाइन नाउ लुक एट दिस opioids are basically obtained from opium that is poppy how jiba dhire dhire one by one into it look at it opioids bind to specific opioid receptors कोटी अच्छी in the central nervous system and the GIT. A facts basic facts I have just mentioned. So do not skip these. 8 points very very essential. Now try and understand these. Now I have tried to mix a lot of photographs or pictures along with a less amount of data. So data कम अच्छी, but data itli mentioned कम अच्छी. I'll give you a lot of data, but the pictures are more emphasized. Why? Because you need to see things in actual to understand. That's why the pictures are more clear or have more clarity and appeal rather than the text. So more details I explain karibi, but you need to remember these points. So only those valuable points which are essential for our NEET examination, that is in focus. Now look at it. What do we mean by these opioid receptors? Now, you all know that in the body, there are certain structures known as neuroreceptors. Neuroreceptors. Mane kono? जदि कोनोसी प्रकार स्टिमुलस से टच हे थाउ हीट हे थाउ कोल्ड हे थाउ लाइट हे थाउ पेन हे थाउ एनीथिंग these are all stimuli these stimuli when come in contact of us कोनोसी वेरे तो आमो बॉडी रे से जिंसटी को डिटेक्ट करिया पाई जानिबा पाई किसी अच्छी there are certain structures. We call these structures as neurosensory receptors. कौन को आगला रे तंगु? Neurosensory receptors. ठीक अछि. Now, मु जो जिंस उडी को तुमको कहली that is heat, cold, touch, light, electric current, pressure, pain, heat, cold, वगैरह. All these are basically things that come from outside, but external stimuli. Body भितरे भितरे मध्य जेमती externally गोटे climate अछि सेमती भितरे मध्य गोटे internal climate अछि. Okay, there are internal conditions. Why? Because every system has its own mechanism, its own products. ବୁଝାଉଛି ସେ ତାର ରେଗୁଲେସନ କରିଥାଏ। So ଯେତେବେଳେ କୌଣସି ଜିନିଷ ସେଇ ଇଣ୍ଟରନାଲ ମେକାନିଜମ ଭିତରେ ପଶିକି ଓକେ କୌଣସି ପ୍ରକାର ବାହାର ଜିନିଷ ନର୍ମାଲ ଜିନିଷ ଅଛି ଠିକ ଅଛି but something which comes from outside and enters into these internal systems ତାକୁ ମଧ୍ୟ ଡିଟେକ୍ଟ କରିବା ପାଇଁ there are various neurosensory receptors. So neurosensory receptors କେବଳ ବାହାର stimuli ପ୍ରତି କାମ କରନ୍ତିନି, internal stimuli କୁ ମଧ୍ୟ ଡିଟେକ୍ଟ କରିଥାନ୍ତି। So here we are basically referring to the internal stimuli, ମାନେ body ଭିତରକୁ ଗଲେ କିଏ ତାକୁ ଡିଟେକ୍ଟ କରିବ। Okay, so specific receptors ଯିଏ କି opioids detect କରିଥାନ୍ତି they are referred to as opioid receptors। କୋଉଠି present ରହିଲେ central nervous system ରେ। Yes, central nervous system ମାନେ brain and spinal cord, that is the central nervous system। Okay, and the GIT or the gastrointestinal tract mane our alimentary canal, okay, alimentary canal ro surface upare on the mucosa and the central nervous system. In these two regions you'll have the opioid receptors. Clear? So what are the various forms of opioids? Morphine, heroin, brown sugar, all these are different types of opioids. As you can see in the picture, this is morphine, this is heroin, this is brown sugar. Color is brownish, therefore referred to as brown sugar. Our receptors कौन है देखो ध्यान दियो एटी। See, as you can see, एटा हला तमोरा cell membrane. This is your cell membrane. Yes, you can see the lipid molecules along with the in between the protein channels, etc. So intrinsic proteins are chanti along with lipids. So as you can see, these are cyclase, these are potassium, sodium, calcium, ion channels, जे की help करतांदी, movement रे. And age of structure this structure which you see here, age inserting, this one. This is the opioid receptor. So whenever the opioid molecule will come, age opioid molecule and then this particular opioid receptor will send the signals, where the CNS, central nervous system, okay? And there it will impact the various functions of the body, okay? Like suppose morphine, morphine is a very, very important drug in order to relieve pain. Surgical intervention is जो major surgeries कराई था, सेठी morphine दिया जाता है to reduce the pain, okay? तो से कौन कला तमोरा pain inducing substance गुड़िको बा nerves गुड़िको actually burn कर देला, से sensation टी आउ transmit हो बनी, so it will provide temporary relief from the pain and will also act as a sedative. ठीक अछि, so induce sleep. So AG duity jinsa codiela na CNS rela. Okay, it we'll see these things one by one. Okay, whatever things you don't understand, be always prepared to ask. Okay, empty kichi nahi joda buji avani. Suppose you do not understand anything, please do ask. Okay, now look at this. Many people may not have seen what the from where the opioids are obtained. So primary source of opioids is the poppy plant. is the poppy plant. As you can see, eita hala tamura say poppy plant. The flowers are beautiful, similar to that of tulip. Tulip fulla vali. The flowers are very, very beautiful. Reddish or pinkish flowers, sometimes even whitish flowers. The biological name is Papaver somniferum. Poppy plant, biological by scientific name is Papaver somniferum. Okay. Kotu extract hela gachara kou part from the latex. Latex mane exudate. Exudate. Mane suppose tame gachara konosi part ku, especially the fruit ku, emti tikke na kuru khondiya kar dabo. No, whitish colored fluid shall come out of it, ooze out of it. Okay, say the ଜିନିଷଟି ooze out habo. That whitish thing that will ooze out of it is the latex. Okay, latex must have koi paribo tome. That is referred to as the exudate. एमती बहुत गुड़ी को गच्छुर एक्सुडेट बाहरता है. सामान्य उदाहरण एवरीबडी मस्ट हैव सीन, आप लोगों ने ऑब्जर्व किया होगा. फॉर एग्जांपल मोरिंगा मोरिंगा माने सजना गछ. यस, तादेरे गोटे छोटिया जिंस किछि भी नहीं कि शार्प ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं कि एरो खंडिया कर दो कोठी ना तारो ट्रंक रे and leave it like that for some time. And when you come again, you'll see tabitro orange, yellowish, but reddish color jelly wali jinsana baharti ho, and dhire dhire seta hardened hejo. That is also an exudate. Ei jo loko mane tadi bikuchandi on the road or at many places. From where does it come? From the palm trees. So palm trees re kaun karandi semane काटी देगी अपर रीजन पार्ट रे छोटिया गोटे कट करिकी सेठी गोटे हांडी वाली सिस्टम लगे दियंती एंड तो छाड़ी दियंती. नेक्स्ट डे व्हेन दे गो देयर इन द मॉर्निंग they will find that the container, the pot is filled with a fluid like substance. What is that? It is also the same exudate. Which one point have? So exudate by latex is obtained from it. In the picture also you can see, ei jo jinsati tame dekhucho eti, this whitish or milk like substance which you observe here, ei jo milk wali jinsata eti dekhucho, this is nothing but the latex. Got the point? Understood? Okay. How? Eitui ei jinsa tiyari hita, that is the opioids. Okay. Now, what is the basic purpose of this particular opioids? It is a sedative and painkiller, useful for surgery, as I have already said. Sedative माने sleep inducing. आपको जदि यूज करा जाइता है लोकोटी बहुत पेन रे अछि, सोई पारु नहीं, then if you provide this particular drug, ठीक है, then pain be relief hobo and the person will be relaxed and hence it will induce sleep by blocking the transmission or activity of the brain. It will induce sleep. Bujhala? That's why surgical processes for it normally जो कि major surgeries है, morphine is advised to patients to allow them relief from the pain as well as to help them to sleep. Guys, soibe, rest nebe, then only the healing process will be faster. Okay? Okay. Now, nobody in the never ever आपके NEET exam में it is going to be asked कि आपकी morphine में या opioids रे nth position re ya x position re what is the radical ba agent, never. But yes, you will have to recognize. Why? Because there are certain PYQs jodi pachara heichi. Which of the following figures represents morphine? ठीक है, तो तमे actually जिनसटा मने एमती रखिबो so that you can detect कि एई तीनोटी चारोटी केना ओपिओइड्स मानो गोटे मॉलिक्यूलर स्ट्रक्चर अछि, कैनाबिनॉइड्स कर भी अछि, बुझ पालो, कोका अल्कलॉइड्स मानो कर भी अछि, and there are other forms of substances also जो मानो कर मॉलिक्यूलर स्ट्रक्चर अछि. Now if I cannot separate कि कौन सा क्या है, then it is a problem. So there are questions in which it has been asked कि age insert का को represent करूची. So there you will have to be very clear कि ये किसे represent कर रहा है. Got the point? So please remember certain unique features to separate or identify. Which one is a morphine, which one is an coca alkaloid, or which one is a cannabinoid. ठीक है? बुझेला. Otherwise, there is no point in remembering the molecular structure. Molecular formula or molecular structure, no need. But you need to identify, suppose a morphine, an alkaloid, or a cannabinoid are placed. The molecules are placed. The structure of khaiji. So tome jani pariya uchit je kouta kon. That is an important question. Okay. Now, different forms of opioids and their derivatives achi. ଯେତେବେଳେ opioids ତମେ ଦେଖୁଛ, opioids ମାନଙ୍କର several derivatives ମଧ୍ୟ ଅଛି. Yes. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ derivatives କଥା କହୁଛେ, in opioids there are several derivatives. Now these derivatives are obtained artificially or by certain processing. मतलब latex from the Papaver somniferum is obtained. Say latex टी को आने की हमें further processing करिवा. Means it will undergo certain levels of chemical processing. Say जो processing की हब्बो, because of that processing we can obtain several types of opioids further. What are they? Let's see. Now look into it. The first category is heroin. Okay, morphine देखले. Then morphine ru आगु को जीवा. Next is heroin. सुनिथिबो TVs रे, news रे, इतनी किलो heroin जब चला. But TVs में normally drug dealers speak of heroin. Yes, तो वही चीज है. What is exactly heroin or how is it obtained? Remember this thing. This is very important. Both are questions पचरा जाइए exam में. Very important. Heroin is actually a product of acetylation. Product of acetylation. ठीक है? Of morphine. Morphine को जदी acetylation करा जाता है. Now, acetylation क्या होता है? Yes, you must have studied in chemistry. Acetyl गोटे functional group. ठीक है? Organic chemistry में. Fine. So, the process of adding the acetyl group to the morphine is known as acetylation of morphine. Okay. तो एठी कौन रहता है ना, double acetylation करा रहता है. Means twice, 2 times the acetylation is done. Therefore, heroin is referred to as diacetyl morphine. So heroin is simply a product of morphine, but obtained by the process of diacetylation of morphine. ठीक अछि? Is that understood? What is the structure or how does it look like? White odorless, bitter, crystalline compound. Important. White in appearance, odorless achi, taste is bitter, and the substance is crystalline. Crystalline, mane luna, etc. Vali desi agu. Since it is having crystals in it. Understood? It is not amorphous, it is crystalline. Means the particles have crystal-like formation. So it's very, very important. In this year 2025, a question was asked regarding the opioids, that is heroin. Kya question tha? Question asked, there it was a statement-based question. Which of the following statements is incorrect? ठीक है? तो उसमें one sentence was there. जो तेरे सबू लिखा है white, odorless, bitter, but एडी लिखी दिला non crystalline. Non crystalline. तो वहीं पे बन गया ये wrong statement. बुझ पा लो? So each and every term here is a keyword, and that marks or identifies this specific chemical. ठीक है? Alkaloid. ସେଥିପାଇଁ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ ମନେ ରଖିବ ତ ଯେହେତୁ non ଲାଗିଲା, that non is incorrect, rest is fine. Okay, how it is obtained by acetylation of morphine. Acetylation of morphine, as we have already discussed, taken by snorting and injection. So modus operandi kemti nahi habo. Simple. This powder is taken. Now either it is directly snorted by inhaled. Inhaled. Snorting mane hela. Remember this, snorting implies forcefully inhaling a solid or liquid through nostrils. This is what you call snorting. Inhaling coil to pabon me inhale kochu na, but that is not considered snorting. Jadi solid kimba liquid jinsor ame nakko bate forcefully inhale kole, then it is referred to as snorting. ठीक है? और prepare injections प्रथमे नब heroin को ताकु dilute करिवो बा ताकु heat करिवो. Once you start heating it, it will melt into a solid ochi. Heating jogu liquid egala. Once liquid is obtained, then it is pulled into an injection, and this injection is injected into the body. That is, and the injection is given where? Intravenous, mana IV, not intramuscular. IV hai, intravenous, directly veins with inject kara jai. It's a very painful process. It's not so simple. Why? Because got a vein injection daba pe tamu swatantra patho padiya pode. And these people who are addicts, they know nothing about veins or arteries or injections. Kintu ye de ke khud ko practice kar liye. And that is the reason why sometimes the hands and the places where they have taken those injections, those places become dark, become swollen, infection madhya hai jai, because of the same reason. Why? Because improperly they do not know how to give, but just for the sake of the addiction nahi jauchandi. ठीक है? So ये बहुत dangerous भी है. बड़े बड़े करला को ठीक जगह न पहुंचेगी, भूल जगह इंजेक्ट होगा, plenty of blood loss will also be there. ठीक है? So many problems. It's not so simple. How? इसका function क्या है बच्चा? देखो, what is the effect? It is a depressant. Depressant माने कौन? तुमको सोई पकड़ो. मतलब आप अभी active है. Now you are active. You're listening. You're working. you're performing all your functions. That is work. Depression implies that which pulls you back. Okay, prevents you from performing all these functions. So the brain functions are retarded or slowed down. The brain functions गुड़िका retarded नहीं गला व slowed down नहीं गला. That is a condition that we refer to as depression. आदमी डिप्रेशन में चला गया, माने दिन रात बैठ के ऐसे बैठा रहता है और क्या क्या सोचता रहता है, does not perform any work or duties. That is what is depression. Remains in that particular state of mind. Clear? Okay. तो वही होला देखो, it is depressant and slows down body functions. Clear? Okay. After the opioids, in the category, we have the next, that is the cannabinoids. Okay. Now, opioids they called the kilame obtained from Papaver somniferum, that is poppy plant. Tar photo na tar latex. It is a white, it is an odorless, bitter, and crystalline compound. Okay. Now, basically, what are the common products obtained from it? The morphine is a primary product. तापरे हेरोइन, ब्राउन शुगर, ठीक है, ये चीजें आपकी कॉमनली ऑब्टेन होती है फ्रॉम दी opioids, that is poppy latex. Okay. Next category is cannabinoids. Fine. Now, cannabinoids basically नसरीन गुड मॉर्निंग, कैसे हो आप बच्चा, कहाँ थे? ओके, गॉड ब्लेस यू, वेलकम. चलो बढ़िया है, आ गए, देर आए दुरुस्त आए, सही है, नो प्रॉब्लम, वी हैव जस्ट स्टार्टेड. चलो, एंड यू आर स्मार्ट इनफ टू कैच अप. चलो, लेट अस कंटिन्यू. हाँ, ओके, फाइन. एंड व्हाटएवर डाउट्स यू हैव, आस्क. चलो बढ़िया फिर. ओके. नाउ व्हेन वी से कैनाबिनॉइड्स, इनके नाम पे ही देखो आप, जेमती ओपियोइड्स वर ऑब्टेन्ड फ्रॉम ओपियम, दैट इज पॉपी पापावर सोमनिफेरम. वैसे ही कैनाबिनॉइड्स नाम जो है, that are substances which are obtained from another plant known as cannabis. As you can see, ये सब cannabis है. आमे जाकू आमा भाषा रे सिंपली क्या बोलते हैं, गंजेई. सिंपल, the local term for this is गंजेई. फाइन, इसको आप गांजा, गंजेई, मैरिजुआना etc. बोलते हैं. That in technical terms are nothing but cannabinoids. क्यों? The plant from which it is obtained is cannabis sativus. ठीक है, ये नाम याद रखिएगा, it's important. Fine. Okay. Now, when you look at the cannabinoids, what are the various types, functions, etc. Let's see. They interact with cannabinoid receptors. जैसे आपने स्टार्टिंग में देखा, तो ओपियोइड की भी रिसेप्शन थी, that is opioid receptors. Same way, the cannabinoids are chemical substances जिनकी again receptors are present. Remember, opioid receptor अलग है, cannabinoid की receptor अलग है. They are two different types of receptors. Different. Why? Because इनकी functions में भी differences है. Modus operandi बा mechanism में मध्य differences होची. So therefore, जो receptors तक stimulus को receive करी थांती, they are also different. Fine. Although both of them are chemoreceptors, yet their mechanism of operation is different. कैसे different है देखो. They interact with cannabinoid receptors in the brain. Again, CNS. Now, if you remember properly, आपके in case of the opioids, the receptors were present where in the CNS as well as GIT. यहाँ पे आपकी receptors are primarily located where in the brain, that is CNS. Okay. Generally taken by inhalation or oral ingestion. Inhalation or oral ingestion. मतलब normally people smoke the weed, as you can see here. This is the common method of taking it in. Otherwise, there are people who even consume it. ठीक है? Who also consume it, as you can see here. जोटा की तमे रास्ता ऊपर देखी थी वो, people selling it, and even the Shivratri etc. रे, they use it. That is called bhango. ठीक है? वो भी it's also obtained from the same plant. तो वो oral ingestion का काम है. And when they smoke it, that is for inhalation purposes. ठीक है? So in both mechanism, oral as well as inhalation, it is consumed. ठीक है? यहाँ पे in this category वो intravenous जिनसे जोड़ा के हमें ओपियम में देखो तो वो नहीं है. It is either oral or it is inhaled. ठीक है? Now, natural cannabinoids are obtained from the inflorescence of the plant Cannabis sativus, also known as the hemp plant. Important, remember this. ठीक है? Fine. Codacilla, inflorescence. Seticodacilla from the latex of the fruit of the poppy plant. Papaver somniferum. In this case, it is obtained from the inflorescence. Now, I hope inflorescence कौन है समझ जानती है. Now, this is what is inflorescence. यहाँ देखो आप, ये जो insert देखो जो तुम्हें, this is the inflorescence. ये है inflorescence. Inflorescence मानने कौन हो? Part of the stem or branch, a part of the stem or branch, okay, which forms the floral axis, on which several flowers or buds are present in an acropetal succession. Inflorescence is a branch or a stem that contains several flowers or buds arranged in an acropetal succession. Arranged in acropetal mane? Yes, the older and the larger are present at the bottom, and the younger and the smaller are present towards the top. That is basically called an inflorescence. Floral axis madhya koitha. Okay? बहुत गुड़ी को फ्लावर्स गोटिए एक्सिस रे रहिबे, गोटिए जगह रहिबे क्लस्टर हिसाब. Then it is referred to as inflorescence. Clear? Okay, fine. How? फिर देखिए, its flower tops, leaves and resin are used to produce marijuana, hashish, charas, ganja. See, मैं बोलने का अर्थ ये है that all parts of this particular plant can be used to obtain cannabinoids. ठीक है? You can use the flower tops, you can use the leaves, you can even use the resin. Resin te कौन हो? Resin is similar to that of the latex. ठीक है? Secretory product obtained from that particular plant is referred to as resin. ठीक है? Fine. जोटा की deposit है in that particular plant. Clear? Between the xylem and the phloem regions, आपकी ये resin deposit होती है. Basically, it is a secretory product. Okay. Now, कौन-कौन मिल रहा है through marijuana, hashish, charas, ganja? Now, why I am encircling these things and asking you to remember them? Important. because ऐसा क्वेश्चन सपोज आता है, in the previous year's questions, PYQs, this has been asked. Which of these is not related? तो चार ऑप्शन दे दिया आपको, फाइंड द ऑड वन आउट. इंसटा को लिख के इन मिति, which of these is not related? तो इधर कौन था माने, आउट ऑफ द फोर ऑप्शंस तीन एक प्रकार के होंगे एंड वन विल बी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द कैटेगरी. which बात पॉइंट था. तो सपोज यू रिमेंबर द नेम्स, तो आपको इजीली पता चल जाएगा कि whether they are cannabinoids or they are opioids. the opioids तीनों गोटे cannabinoid है जीवो, तो cannabinoid odd one out हो जाएगा. इबा cannabinoid तीनों अच्छी गोटे opioid है गला, से odd one out है जीवो. बुझ पालो रे. That's why it's important for you to remember it. ठीक है, fine. Marijuana, hashish, charas, ganja, simple, fine. उसके बाद देखिए पेस 80 सबुटू इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट टी, मार्क इट आउट. क्या है ये, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. आप पूर्वरु तमे पढ़िलो that the opioids, they affect the CNS, they affect the CNS. Yes, cannabinoids affect the cardiovascular system. Cannabinoids affect the cardiovascular system. ठीक है, तो basically cannabinoids increase the cardiovascular functions. Means heart rate बढ़े देवे, pumping बढ़े देवे. So as a result of which large amounts of blood will be pumped. इटा काहे केला, आपने जब सर्कुलेटरी सिस्टम पढ़ा होगा, यस, तो सर्कुलेटरी सिस्टम रे तो रेगुलेशन ऑफ सर्कुलेटरी सिस्टम पढ़ी हो, उसमें एक हार्मोन्स, नो अ पेयर ऑफ हार्मोन्स का नाम लिखा है. व्हाट आर दे? epinephrine and norepinephrine, adrenaline and noradrenaline. Yes, do you remember? Yes, it is same in soda. Now adrenaline is an we call it adrenergic. Means it increases the BMR, it increases the rate of respiration as well as the heart rate. ठीक है, तो अधिक amount of blood pumping होगा, अधिक amount of energy production होगा, and the BMR will increase. So Jugu, what happens because of this? Now because of this reason, say somewhere suddenly a lot of energy burst will be there. Because of that, सही समय जो कामोटी तमें खोजो, फॉर एग्जांपल यहाँ देखो क्या मेंशन किया, it is abused by sports persons. Now in that particular time period, suppose the adrenaline rush is there, lot of energy is produced, BMR increases, ठीक है, your body becomes more energetic, more active, ठीक है, so performance booster हिसाब रे मध्य काम होगला. Understood? Now, initially, definitely it is a performance booster, but regular use यदि आपको करा गला, addicted form रे, because successful है गला जाने, no performance increase है गला, so obviously ताको लोभ होला गला. Yes, तो उसने क्या किया, ये before every performance, they start consuming it, using it to increase the performance, but slowly it will have a negative impact. कार्डियोवास्कुलर फंक्शंस तो बढ़ेला, किंतु धीरे धीरे ता ऊपर एते इंपैक्ट पकेवा आरंभ करिवो that your heart muscles and your blood vessels, your kidneys, they will start becoming affected because pressure बहुत अधिक दामोर पड़ुची, तो वीक है जीवे धीरे धीरे. तो उसके बाद performance degrade habo, health issues baharibo, so it becomes very very dangerous. बुझे ना? एज इंसर्ट जो है ना, उसी को क्या बोलता है हम लोग? अब्यूज. बुझ पा लो? अंडरस्टूड? वही है, देखो यहाँ पे. तो कार्डियोवास्कुलर सिस्टम इज अफेक्टेड. Cannabinoids are abused by some sports persons. Yes, done. ठीक है? Okay. Now, as we have seen the formula of the molecular structure of the opioids, यहाँ देखिए आप, the structure is representing cannabinoids. Now, what is the primary difference that you would have seen? वहां पे in case of opioids, it was an aromatic structure. ठीक है? Cyclic, made up of cyclic compounds. ठीक है? यहाँ पे देखिए ये more or less एक linear structure है. It's not a cyclic compound. ठीक है जी? So you can easily see things and identify. So you'll have to mark it carefully. And since you people are good in chemistry also, so you can easily tell कि कौन सी cannabinoid की structure है, कौन सी opioid की structure है. That is easy for you to detect. ठीक है? Simply आप देखिएगा number of carbons को, carbon रो को position है कौन सी, and identify and remember it. That way it will be easier for you. Okay? Fine. तो ये हुआ आपका cannabinoids. Now look into this. कोका अल्कलॉइड्स और कोकेन. ठीक है? नाउ कोका अल्कलॉइड्स व कोकेन और कोक और क्रैक सब गोटे ना. कोका अल्कलॉइड्स कहि परिबो, कोकेन कहि परिबो, ठीक अछि, कोक कहि परिबो व क्रैक मध्य कहि परिबो. ये सब एक ही चीज के नाम है. ओके? आपने टीवी में बहुत बार सुना होगा कोकेन. हाँ, इतनी मात्रा रे कोकेन जब्त करा गला, या फिर फिल्मों में दिखा होगा ये तो कोकेन का व्यापार करता है, वगैरह वगैरह. नो, सो सही जिंसर्ट ही नो इज बीइंग रेफर्ड, दैट इज कोकेन. नाउ एज यू कैन सी इन दिस पिक्चर, this coca alkaloid or cocaine is obtained from erythroxylum coca. This is the plant which you can see. ठीक है? And from this particular plant only the cocaine is obtained. ठीक है? We call this erythroxylum coca. ठीक है? What is the basic effect of it? It interferes with transport of the neurotransmitter dopamine. Now, dopamine basically is a neurotransmitter as well as a neuroinhibitor. ठीक है? Now, dopamine helps in relaxation. No, dopamine helps in soothing actions. So basically, dopamine is a very, very important neurotransmitter to induce the calming effect. ठीक है? तो इसमें it interferes with the transport of neurotransmitter, that is dopamine. ठीक हो जी? You would have heard of acetylcholine. ठीक है? Dopamine, gibberellic acid. ठीक है? GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. Okay? All these are essentially neurotransmitters, fine, in some way or the other. Commonly, हमें जाने चाहिए acetylcholine is the most common form of neurotransmitter. But ताको छाड़ देला पोरे, there are other forms of neurotransmitters also present. Now, look into this. Cocaine is usually snorted, as you can see here. Usually snorted. ठीक है? Then it stimulates the CNS, producing euphoria and increased energy. Euphoria माने happiness. ठीक है? Complete happiness and relief. Means the person would be as if having no tensions, no thoughts, completely blank, empty, and feels a sensation of relief from everything. ठीक है? उस समय the feeling is a very very different thing that is referred to as euphoria. ठीक है? And along with it, increase in energy. Why? Because the VMR etc. is increased, as I mentioned. Dopamine को affect करिबो. So dopamine क्या कर रहा था? Dopamine was normalizing. So normalizing of habani, your sympathetic nervous system will be activated. As a result of which there will be burst of energy. ठीक है? Now, 80 important mark करो. ये तो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है ही. That is affects the CNS. Urvata, that is the cannabinoids. They were affecting the cardiovascular system. ये वापस से again comes to the CNS, that is central nervous system. ठीक है? Producing euphoria and increase the energy. Similarly, excessive dosage of the cocaine may lead to hallucinogenic effect. मतलब things which are not there but not present, आप उसे visualize करेंगे and you'll think it to be real. Means things which are absent or are not present, you will assume them to be actually present and are true. ठीक है? मतलब सामने some person has been OD'd, that is overdosed, and उसने रास्ते में ना एक रस्सी देखी. ठीक है? तो उस रस्सी को वो सांप समझ लेगा, इमेजिन करेगा. सामने मान लो एक पेड़ है, the पेड़ is somewhat similar to that of man, or shape is like that, जिसकी shadow cast हो रही है. The shadow appears to be like a form, a human form. बोलेगा राक्षस है, भूत है, वगैरह वगैरह. So under hallucinogenic conditions, they imagine things and accept the imagination to be real. So that means simple koya gole, they cannot differentiate between what is real and what is a myth or a simply visualization. Clear? Fine. So imaginary and actual ଭିତରେ से differentiate ही କରିପାରିବେନି ସେଇ ସମୟରେ. That is known as hallucination. ठीक है? Now other forms of alkaloids that can also be having such kind of effects but are not very commonly abused. ये जो तीनोटी देखिलो तमे, that is opioids, cannabinoids and coca alkaloids, एगुड़िको commonly commercially market रे बिक्री होची black market रे, not in general. Why? Because the sale and purchase of these are completely banned and considered to be illegal. ठीक है? Under the narcotics laws. Very very dangerous. Never ever come in contact with these. ठीक है? Fine. Because it is not only harmful to the body but also illegal, and the punishments can be too dangerous. ठीक है? But आपको छाड़ना पड़े, there are other certain substances which can also be considered equivalently dangerous and abusive. ठीक है जी? Similar or even further effects. Kintu, these are not commonly used. Why? Because of their toxicity, because of their range of side effects. Plus, they may not be so popular in terms of use, in terms of easy mode of action. ठीक ଅଛି? In the ସହଜରେ obtain କରିପାରିବନି. So processing requires a lot of skills and difficulties. ସେଥିପାଇଁ ଏଗୁଡ଼ିକୁ normally abuse କରା ଯାଏ ନାହିଁ. But there are certain communities on earth which use them in order to have such kind of sedative effects. ठीक है जी? तो उसमें कौन आ जाता है? Atropine, I mean Atropa belladonna. As you can see this is Atropa belladonna. From which what is obtained? Atropine. आपको कौन मिल रहा? Atropine. अरे आप लोग सबने देखा होगा, इधर तमे जाऊचो सपोज आखी टेस्ट करिया पे, तो आपकी आंखों में एक प्रकार का ड्रॉप डाल देते हैं, बोलते हैं आंख बंद करके बैठो आधे घंटे 40 मिनट एंड तापर तुम आखिची टेस्ट करा जीव। ठीक अच्छे जो ड्रॉप पकाला नहीं दैट इज नथिंग बट अ कॉम्पोजिशन ऑफ एट्रोपिन। ठीक है ये दैट इज इट्स बेनिफिशियल इफेक्ट। बट ସେଇଠି ତମକୁ ସେ ଏହି advice ଟି ବି ମଧ୍ୟ କରିବେ कि you might have certain kinds of effects like lethargic, drowsy ଏଇ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡିକ। वो क्यों? Because that atropine has sleep inducing effects also। ସେଥିପାଇଁ କୁହାଯାଇଥାଏ है जिसका जो पेशेंट आए हैं उसके साथ में कोई और आना चाहिए भाई so that the patient can safely reach home। and तापर ताको vision and other kinds of effects जो driving or maneuvering becomes difficult। बुझेला? Okay, but medicinal purpose रे बेसी use हुए, abusive usage very less। then the other one is दतुरा दतुरा माने दूधुरा गछो। शिवरात्रि में आप सबने देखा होगा देयर इज हाई डिमांड ऑफ दीज फ्लावर्स। ठीक है इनकी फ्रूट्स भी देखी होंगी कॉन्टा वालिया फ्रूट्स गुड़िको। ठीक है ये कॉमनली रोड साइड पे यूजुअली मिल जाएंगे। सो दतुरा दतुरा इज आल्सो अ वेरी वेरी डेंजरस हाईली हैलुसिनोजेनिक हाईली हैलुसिनोजेनिक। ठीक है ये कहा जाए दैट फ्रॉम in comparison to opium, cannabinoids and the coca alkaloids, ये ज्यादा dangerous है। ठीक है why? Because small part of it can cause a lot of effect, but still then ankara obtaining, processing and taste etc are not that good, hence economically they are not exploited for drug abuse। बुझेला? तो ये हो गई बेसिकली आपकी ड्रग्स की अब्यूज। ठीक है ना ड्रग्स लाइक barbiturates, amphetamines, benzodiazepines etc are used as medicines to treat mental illness like depression and insomnia। एट देखो मार करो as I told in the beginning also, drugs are those which are obtained either naturally from plants or are also obtained artificially by processing chemicals। तो सही जिंसटी यहाँ पे देखिए आप बार्बिट्यूरेट्स, एम्फेटामाइंस, बेंजोडायजेपिन्स। ठीक है all these are drugs related to mental disorders। ठीक है like डिप्रेशन, एंजाइटी, इंसोम्निया। ठीक है डिप्रेशन, एंजाइटी, इंसोम्निया। इंसोम्निया माने स्लीपलेसनेस। यदि तुम ठीक से निद ही पारुनी तो स्लीपिंग पिल्स खाते लोग ना, दो स्लीपिंग पिल्स contain these substances। Fine, even people who have hysterical behavior, hysteria, ठीक है schizophrenia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, even what we say the drowning syndrome or epilepsy, से सबु जिंस रे मध्य एमनको यूज करा जाइता है। So in markets you cannot purchase these category of drugs without medical prescription। very very dangerous। ठीक है why? Because they have this knack of forming addiction। ठीक है स्लीपिंग पिल्स नौ खाइले निद होनी तो ऐसा टाइम आएगा, अभी जैसे मान लीजिए एक एक टैबलेट खाते थे सो जाते थे, फिर धीरे धीरे आएगा दो टैबलेट खाएंगे तब जाकर सोएंगे, तापर तीनों टी खाई लिए निद हो ना निद ही होनी। समझ में? ऐसा डिपेंडेंसी बढ़ जाता है। That's why they are very very dangerous। oh उसके बाद देखिए बट देयर अब्यूज रिजल्टिंग इन इम्पेयरमेंट ऑफ फिजिकल, फिजियोलॉजिकल और साइकोलॉजिकल फंक्शन। माने आकु कंज्यूम करिबा जोगु अधिक मात्रा रे लोकंकर physical, physiological as well as psychological functions are degraded or harmed. ठीक है, physical माने ठीक से चला बुला करि परिबानी, motor reflexes affected है जीवो, तो चालू थिबे जीवा थियो गोटे आडे चालू थियो अलगा आडे, ठीक है, accidents etc. occur when people consume these and drive in their effects, ठीक है, तो ये physical problems है. Physiological केमती है ला body भीतर metabolism रो problems create हबो, ठीक है, cardiovascular, neurological, liver, kidneys etc. all will be affected. So therefore physiological changes होते हैं सिवे, plus psychological. You will find yourself to be sedated, under stress or under anxiety, या फिर in certain other kind of conditions. So therefore physical, physiological and psychological. PPP. All these drugs have the PPP effect. Physical, physiological and psychological. Okay, okay. You can see barbiturates, amphetamines, benzodiazepines. Okay, benzodiazepines are very commonly used sleeping pills. Okay. Fine. Now, उसके बाद देखिए, next is smoking and alcohol abuse. देख लो एक बार. As you can see, smoking, that is, use of tobacco. Okay? Use of tobacco began somewhere 400 years back. Now, tobacco can be smoked, can be chewed, okay? Or even, snorting or snuffing, use kora jaita hai. Contains many chemical substances like nicotine, which stimulates adrenal gland to release adrenaline and noradrenaline, causing high blood pressure and heart rates. Bujela. So some people, when you ask them why do they consume cigarettes, etc., they say it provides them relief. Okay? It provides them relief. Now, how do you think that it provides the relief? Actually, it increases the heart rate. Therefore, the adrenaline which is produced or the noradrenaline that is produced, effect jogu, the pumping of the blood, etc., the heart rate is increased. As a result of which, those regions which actually were not receiving blood before that, they are also now receiving proper amount of blood. So, say jo jinsati thila, that is feeling of lethargic or uneasy, vagera, say jinsati, say samopai komi gala. So for that they felt relief, hence it started as a habit. But धीरे धीरे ये habit आपका addiction बन गया. And the problem is कि excessive use of tobacco, that is smoking or chewing, etc., may result in damage to various structures and organs, even may lead to certain diseases like cancer. ठीक है, देखिए यहाँ. Smoking causes cancers of lung, urinary bladder and throat, emphysema, bronchitis, CADs, that is coronary heart diseases, gastric ulcers, etc. As you can see, normal healthy lungs, the complexion, and when a person becomes a chain smoker, tar lungs the condition gone hila. Okay, this is coal tar basically. Okay. Now, tobacco chewing causes oral cancer, as you can see. The symbol which is used in many places, as warning signs that how it can cause oral cancers. Then smoking increases the carbon monoxide content in blood and reduces oxyhemoglobin. Carbon monoxide, kahengi? When the substance that is tobacco is improperly burnt, ଯେତେବେଳେ smoke kara hauchi, the cigarettes etc., so the content in it is burning by oxidation hauchi taro. ଯଦି incomplete oxidation hela, then what will happen? Carbon monoxide will be released. Proper oxidation hela to CO2 form hobo. Carbon plus oxygen results in formation of CO2. But ଯଦି complete oxidation hochi, incomplete oxidation hele, carbon monoxide form hela. Now, some amount of carbon monoxide remains inside the lungs and may diffuse into the blood through the alveoli. Now, we already know that carbon monoxide binds to hemoglobin and forms a permanent structure known as, yes, carboxyhemoglobin. যদি carboxy hemoglobin ହେଇଗଲା ତାହେଲେ ଆଉ oxygen hemoglobin ସାଙ୍ଗରେ bind କରିପାରିବନି. Hence it will become a condition where CO poisoning, the carbon monoxide poisoning ହେଲା plus oxygen level by saturation body रे कमी गला. समझ में आई बात? It's a very dangerous condition. उसके बाद देखेंगे अल्कोहल अब्यूज. ठीक है, adolescents, drug and alcohol abuse. Yes. See, as you can see here, what is addiction? First, try and understand. A psychological attachment, euphoria, and a temporary feeling of well-being to drugs and alcohol is referred to as addiction. A psychological attachment, ठीक है, to drugs and alcohol. कौन पाई? Because it provides euphoria, that is happiness, and a temporary feeling of well-being. मतलब nothing is wrong, everything is fine. A sense of well-being, or say sense of, or we can say confidence, achievement. ठीक है, that provides, that is provided during that particular time period. Say the sensation that results in addiction. ठीक. Okay. Now, what are the various effects that occur due to the abuse of drugs and alcohol? Reckless behavior, okay. Violence, vandalism, fine. Because of this use of excessive alcohol, what happens to the liver? This is referred to as cirrhosis, okay. Liver is damaged, fine. Coma, death due to respiratory failures, heart failures, cerebral hemorrhage, okay. Drugs along with alcohol is even further dangerous. Damage of the CNS along with the liver, causing cirrhosis. Mental and social distress to family and friends. Okay. Diseases like AIDS, hepatitis, and so many other things. Fine. Now, suppose the alcohol consumption is done by during pregnancy, may result in affecting the children also. The neonatals, body vitere, bahut gudika problems create hey parivo. Yes, look at it. Use of drugs and alcohol by pregnant women affect the fetus, that is fetal alcohol syndrome or FAS. Right? Loss of sexual drive and necrospermia. The sperm count will decrease, the sexual desire or drive will increase. That also result in prostates, that is prostatitis. Okay. So many problems can occur, and the use of these drugs and alcohol, etc., to boost performance is only temporary. It will be a very, very dangerous thing. Okay. Various kinds of problems may happen if the adolescence rate performance degradation of our schools, etc., colleges, etc. Now, personal hygiene will be a problem. Withdrawal and isolation, they will slowly go into depression, etc. May perform malpractices like violence, etc., stealing, theft, okay, burglary, and other forms of crime, etc. Fine. So this is not only a problem which affects the health, also affects the society a lot. Okay, it's a very, very dangerous thing. Fine. And the most important thing is not only medication. Suppose de-addiction career achi. So the most important thing is not आपके just to provide medication and relieve the person, but also counseling, motivating. They must feel that yes, we are together. We are together. We are living. We're a family. Okay, and there's always someone whom we can rely upon. So that is a very, very important thing. A sense of togetherness रहने से the person would have this consolation. Yes, somebody is there, someone is there to help me when there is a problem. That will help them to actually come out of this kind of problems. So it is providing a sense of consolation rather than reacting to things. The things can be changed. Okay. So this is how we are working upon it. Fine. So yeah, drugs and alcohol abuse and all its effects we have studied. Fine. And from this we have learned that these are very, very useful if used properly for a good purpose, medicinal purposes. But if used improperly and abused in a large way, it can be very, very dangerous for not only the health of the individual, but also for the health of the entire society. ठीक है जी? So we must stay away from them and use them only under medical supervision. ठीक है?